all Chinese squid vessels that were in North Korean waters. Those are all illegal because in 2017, the UN Security Council unanimously signed sanctions on North Korea in reaction to nuclear testing. China, as a member of the Security Council, of course, signed those agreements, those sanctions as well. And part of the sanctions were included a prohibition on any foreign vessels being in North Korean waters. Okay. What had been anecdotally reported by South Koreans and Japanese was that large numbers of Chinese squid boats were crossing their waters and heading into North Korean waters. It's important to realize that the illegality is a cluster of illegalities, right? So there's the taking of fish that you're not supposed to take. That's one crime. But there are all sorts of surrounding crimes: money laundering, document fraud, often sea slavery, human slavery, identity theft in terms of ships that go along, and that has worries for on-land law enforcement. The food security concern, whether it's for wealthy nations or poor nations, is acute. As the oceans run out of fish, I think especially poorer nations become more and more destabilized. Poverty contributes to political instability and unrest and other sorts of offspring crimes like piracy. So overfishing, especially in fragile coastal waters of poor nations that have no capacity to police them, has on-land consequences for the locals and for the governments and for the region. And so what I think is a little bit worrisome and maybe distinct about China is, number one, it is more cordoned off from the world community. In many ways. It doesn't really, it's not susceptible to the pressure that, say, European nations or African or South American nations might be to international pressure. And that means it does as it pleases in many ways. So does the US in many ways. But it also is growing and financially endowed. So when it sets its mind to something, whether for good or for bad, it has an unusually strong presence in that regard. And then thirdly, China is engaged in a complicated geopolitical strategy where it is using its fishing vessels in some places in the world, like the South China Sea, as proxies for military and geopolitical ambitions. Those are fishing vessels that are actually not fishing